Hello, dear listeners. You are welcome to the channel again, and we are still on the topic Journey of the Magi by T.S. Eliot. Previously on this channel, we discussed many things, and today in this lesson, we want to look at the figures of speech and sounds in the poem. These are they. The first one to start with is Siswaya. Siswaya. The poet applies his fire in line 21 to divide into climax and anticlimax. I believe you still remember what climax and anticlimax is. When you say climax, it means the peak of the issue discussed or a problem discussed in a literary work. And the anticlimax has to do with a point where there seems to be solution to the problem. There's no solution yet, but there seems to be solution. Probably in a drama work, when you see a person consulting Babalawo or consulting Imam, consulting Abba, consulting Pastor, there they will be told what actually causes the problem, but the solution is not actualized yet. Not until when we get to resolution as the last part of the chain in literary work writing, then you see solution to the problem. So in this regard, we have Siswaya in line 21 to show the climax and the anticlimax. And also lines 1 to 20 mark the climax, which is the outline of the difficulties faced by the Magi along the journey. Then lines 21 to 43 mark the anticlimax, which outlines the development of favorable conditions that allowed the Magi to conclude the journey. So the Desire as applied demonstrates the message tip that tough times never last, but tough time men do. Tough men do. What I'm trying to say here is that the times of torment or the time of trial never last. But tough men who are able to withstand it, find solution to it, they are the one that what last. That is what we are talking about, and that is the message tip of the Siswaya in the poem. The next one is a parallelism, and this marks the grammatical units. The use of grammatical units as used by the poet or the literary writer in the work. And this we have in lines 12 to 15 of the poem. I want to read the quotes or the lines from the poem. And running away, wanting their liquor and women. That is line 12. And the night, fires going out, the lack of shelter, line 13. And the cities hostile and the town unfriendly, line 14. And the villages dirty and changing high prices, that is line 15. When you look at the lines that I just read, you see that they all have and the beginning them. That is what is called parallelism. The use of or the repetition of that particular grammatical unit in the lines of a poetry work. That is parallelism. And the parallelism underscored the fact that the difficulties encountered by the Magi were enormous. That is so much that, but later they overcome it. That is a parallelism as seen in the poem. And the next one is the use of alliteration. And this has to do with the repetition of consonant sounds, usually at the beginning of words in the lines of poetry work. This is seen in line 1, 3, 11, 18, 21, 27, 35, 39, and many more. So, reading from line 1, a cold coming, we heard of it. When you look at code, you have C there, consonants. Coming, you have C there, consonants. That is alliteration. In line 3, for a journey and such a long journey, JJ of journey. So also in line 11, then the camels may causing and grumbling. From then and thee, we have THE there. There's a particular consonant sound that reflects there. And also camels and coursing, we have CC there as well. Line 18, sleeping in snatches, SS. This marks the alliteration. And many more, as I just mentioned from the lines of the poem. The next one is contrast. This belongs to the figures of speech, and the phrase no longer at ease. That's an extract from line 41 of the poem, which duly illustrates a piece of contrast. No longer at ease. The phrase is a pinpoint that the Magi are now different from the untraveled people of their own land. Another piece of contrast is underscored in line 42 of the poem. By this clause, an alien people still clutching to their gods. This clause pinpoints as well the fact that the experience of the Magi is an illustration of the universal truism that experience is the best teacher. An alien people still clutching to their gods. That is, the people of the past, the aged people that we have around us, with experience that they have gathered so far, they are able to do some things successfully. That is what that means. And by extension, one's continuous focus on how one becomes successful will always guarantee its everlasting management. That is continuous focus on how one becomes successful. If you really work hard to achieve something, you will know how to manage it for you to have lasting use of that thing. But if something is dashed out to you or given to you, you may not value it as such because you did not work for it. That is the message tip that is passed in that contrast. The next one is paradox. Paradox is illustrated with the Magi's description of the journeys as the birth and the death, respectively, in lines 39 to 38 to 39. And birth is the direct opposite of death. Birth and death. So the Magi are expressing a logic through the opposites. Birth stands for the new experience just gained, having overcome all difficulties encountered during the journey. And death stands for the cancellation of their inexperience before the journey by their current new and versatile gained experience after the journey. So the paradox, the device, implicitly as shown in the explanation, what I just said, demonstrates the message that there is no success without suffering. As I said earlier, the birth, according to this poem, means the experience that those people just gained, while the death is the what? Cancellation of the inexperience they had before engaging or embarking on the journey. So the paradox or the message tip of that is there is no success without suffering. Whoever doesn't suffer to achieve something will probably end up demolishing or dashing what it is out. And the next one is symbolism. Symbolism is illustrated by this clause as seen in the poem. The silken girls bringing sherbets. This is seen in line 10 of the poem. A silken girl is an attractive looking young woman. While sherbet, the word sherbet, is a powdery fruit juice. So symbolically, the emergence of the silken girls when the Magi are in discomfort is an attempt to lure them away from their journey course to some warm, nice time. Thus, the Magi's discountenance of the temptation underscores the following message tip: success is always achieved through focus. What I'm trying to say as pertaining this symbolism is that when the Magis were on the journey, they are faced with silken girls, which happen to be or wanted to be distraction to what they are to achieve, that is their mission. But those people, the Magis, they are able to what? To overcome the temptation. Actually, the silken girls wanted to lure them to have nice time in order to lose focus. But they what? They defy that and focus on what the mission is. And at the end of the day, they are able to accomplish it. So the message there is that success is always achieved through focus. There will be distractions, but it is the person who knows what he or she is looking for will be focused and determined in order to achieve what it is. So that is the symbolism as we have it in the poem. And the next is a synecdoche. This device is seen in the expression the voices singing in our ears. This was all fully. That is a line from the poem. And this, we have two lines joined there. The voices singing in our ears, and also this was all fully. We have it in the poem lines 19 and 20. The word voices is reference for the two inner minds of any man's subconscious, which is either positive or negative. That is the voices. Sometimes when you sit deliberating on something, you will see one voice saying, do it, and another one saying, don't do it. That is our subconscious mind. And also, the word voices as man's subconscious is the synecdoche. I hope this is clear. The synecdoche is the voices. Voices is standing for what? Men, inner mind, our thoughts. And the positive subconscious often quietly manifests, while the negative is what? Noisily. The one that will be telling you that this thing you're about to do is not good will be very low in tone. Why the one that will say, go ahead and do it? That is what everybody does today. This is modern time. That one will be what? Coming with sound, deep sound. That is what this means. And the synecdoche brings to fore that the Magi were emotionally persecuted, but they were watchful. That's why they were able to overcome the torments. In turn, the synecdoche gives out the message tip that no difficulty is unsolvable with spirit of endurance and perseverance. So the synecdoche, once again, is the voices, that is, inner mind thoughts of men. As one, if you are deliberating on something, one voice, you have a kind of a voice that do it. One will say don't do it. That is our subconscious mind. But if that thing you're about to do is good, that will have low pitch. But the one that is going against what it is will be noisily saying, do it, everybody does it. This is modern day. You have to be what? Civilized. So this is what we are talking about, the synecdoche and poem. And the next one is a biblical allusion. In lines 35 to 36 of the poem, were we led all that way of birth or death? That's the question from the poem in line 35. The literary device known as rhetorical question, um, literary allusion, I meant. These lines allude to the opening lines of a Christmas sermon given by Lancelot Andrews, the Bishop of Winchester, and the original lines from the sermon as follows. A cold coming we heard of it. That is one line. Just the worst time of the year for a journey, and such a long journey. The ways deep and the weather sharp, the very dead of winter. These lines are seen in lines 1 to 5 of the poem. And the choice of these lines as the opening of this poem is a deliberate attempt on the part of the poetic persona to establish the poem as an examination of man's quest for spiritual reformation and transformation, and as well an examination of the trials that come with such endeavor. Thus, Andrew's sermon served as a literary pretext for the creation of the journey of the Magi. That is the biblical allusion, because reference is made to the sermon by Bishop Andrews. I hope this is clear. And lastly, we have rhetorical question as one of the devices, the speech figures. And here in line 35, were we led all that way of birth and death? The literary device is rhetorical question. That is, rhetorical question is a question that demands no answer and is used to explore the idea that birth and death are not necessarily opposites, but on the contrary, they are somewhat intertwined. Death does not always mean an end. In some cases, it has to occur for new life to be born. For example, in the poem, the Magi figuratively die as a result of the experiences they had during their journey and the encounter they have at their destination. However, this death does not mean the end of their lives. It simply signals the end of an old phase and ushers in a new one. So, death, as used by this poet, signifies that when a normal human being falls, the person has to rise, only if the person chooses to rise. So that is why it is also said that the downfall of a man is not the end of his life. This is how far we can go in today's lesson. And if the video worth it, give a thumbs up and do not forget to share the channel, share the video as usual, and do have a nice day. Stay safe. Corona is real.